Good News Translation. Exodus chapter 17, beginning at verse 1. And Moses reports here, the whole Israelite community left the desert of Sin, moving from one place to another at the command of the Lord. They camped at Rephidim, but there was no water there to drink. They complained to Moses and said, give us water to drink. Moses answered, why are you complaining? Why are you putting the Lord to the test? But the people were very thirsty and continued to complain to Moses. They said, why did you bring us out of Egypt to kill us and our children and our livestock with thirst? Moses prayed earnestly to the Lord and said, what can I do with these people? They are almost ready to stone me. The Lord said to Moses, take some of the leaders of Israel with you and go on ahead of the people. Take along the stick with which you struck the Nile. I will stand before you on a rock at Mount Sinai. Strike the rock, and water will come out of it for the people to drink. Moses did so in the presence of the leaders of Israel. This place was named Massah and Meribah because the Israelites complained and put the Lord to the test when they asked, is the Lord with us or not? Moving forward, what are some of the requirements? There are some things that are required if we are to move forward in our lives. The Hebrew people in the text wanted to move forward, but there were some challenges. The Hebrew people in the text of the day wanted to move forward, but there was no water. Consequently, they had a thirst. There was a physical thirst for water. They had just left the wilderness of sin, and there was no water to drink. They were no strangers to having a need for something. They needed food in chapter 16, and God provided bread from heaven called manna to help them move forward. God sent bread from heaven, and he also provided quail as meat to help them move forward. God, like any good parent who designs and guests, wants and desires that his children have the best. And he provides for his children. He provided for the Hebrew people when they were slaves in Egypt. He sent a man by the name of Moses back to Egypt to help them move forward out of slavery. And Moses told Pharaoh that God told him to tell Pharaoh to let my people go. Pharaoh refused, but after a number of plagues, consented to let the people go. It was God's desire that his people would move forward. Then Pharaoh decided that he and his army would go after them, and the Bible tells us that they were all drowned in the Red Sea. God worked it out for the Hebrew people to move forward. But then they found themselves at a place where they were thirsty and needed water. Their physical need was water. They had their cups ready, but there was no water. They were willing to drink, but there was no water. They had a desire, but there was no water. They were willing, but there was no water. Their throats were parched, but there was no water. They had their cups, but they had no water. It would be difficult for them to move forward without water. And you may be at a place where you want to move forward, but you need something in your life. You may be ready to move forward, but you are lacking something in your life. And when we lack something, or when things do not go as we would like for them to go, there's a tendency to complain. The Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary defines complaining as expressing grief, pain, or discontent. Elcott Tolle said, when you complain, you make yourself a victim. Leave the situation, change the situation, or accept it. All else is madness. The late poet, writer, and humanitarian Maya Angelou wrote, if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. An anonymous source wrote, stay away from still people. Still broke, still complaining, still hated, and still nowhere. their leader, a man named Moses, wanted the people to move forward. There are some things that we can gather from him as we look at the text today. Those things can help us move forward, and I will take it a little further by saying that what we see in the text should be a requirement for anybody, yes, anybody, if they want to move forward in anything. I mean, just that is a requirement. It shouldn't be something that we're given an option. It shouldn't be something that we can take one day or refuse it. If we're to move forward, there are some things that are required. There are sometimes things just need to be required. I've said this before, I'm glad that the state of Virginia has inspections every year. Because if they were not required, some people would not get the cars fixed. Tall tires just as bald as your hand. Some things have to be required. So what does moving forward require? What is required if any of us are to move forward? Moving forward requires you to push through the problems. Moving forward requires you to push through the problems. Yes, we push through. It requires some effort. It requires energy to stand and accept what is before us. It requires us not to stick our heads in the sand, but listen, be alert, push through, as opposed to putting on the ugly face, complaining about what has happened, and throwing in the towel. Moses pushed through and allowed the people to express their thoughts and concerns because their concerns were legitimate. If you're thirsty, you're thirsty. Yeah, sometimes we can be dehydrated and don't know that we're thirsty. Let me get that example. When you're hungry, you're hungry. And sometimes you don't want to get in the way of hungry people. I know that's why I'm going to have to get out here now because I know some of y'all are getting hungry now. And Moses responded, but he didn't respond in a threatening way. He just pushed through. Not having enough water was a serious problem. But Moses pushed through and did not lose his composure. He just pushed through and he heard the complaints. Listen to the text in the Good News translation. He said, verse 17, verse 1, the whole Israelite community left the desert of sin, moving from one place to another at the command of the Lord. And you can imagine it's hot out in the desert. They camped at Rephidim, but there was no water there to drink. They complained to Moses and said, give us water to drink. Moses answered, why are you complaining? Why are you putting the Lord to the test? But the people were very thirsty and continued to complain to Moses. They said, why did you bring us out of Egypt to kill us and our children and our livestock with thirst? The Hebrew people had a need, and they thought it was Moses' fault. They were upset. Their claim was that Moses brought them out of Egypt to kill them, their children, and their livestock. That was not true. They blamed Moses because they were thirsty and did not have water. The Hebrew people needed to move forward. Moving forward requires you to push through the problems. And all of us, from the time we were born until the moment we die, will have problems or challenges in our life. Amen. Don't wait till you say, I'm old enough to leave home, so I won't have any problem. You can still have fun. I'll be glad when I get a job. I'll be on my own, so I won't have any problem. I'll be glad when I'm glad when I get married, so I won't have a problem. I'll be glad when I retire, so I won't have any problem. Retirees, you all know that ain't true. To have a non-problem life or a life without problems, you're living in the wrong world. All of us have to deal with something. The things that we deal with change as we go through life, though. Some folks are dealing with things that they never thought they
were not expecting, but they're now present in your life. You did not have to deal with it or them a few years ago, but you're dealing with it now. In order for you and I to move forward in this life, it's required that we push through the problems. The Hebrew people should have remembered they pushed through chapter 16 when they needed food and God provided manna. They could have stopped complaining. They could have stopped complaining and should have started trusting God. They began to blame Moses. Moses did not ask for the job as leader. He did not submit his resume along with 3 personal references. Moses just had to push through the problems, and the people needed to push through their problems. To someone who's listening to me today, complaining may not be the answer. Trust God and remember what He has done for you in the past, because moving forward requires you to push through the problem. We can be too quick to complain, but there's a song in the hymnal that says, count your blessings. Name them one by one. Count your many blessings. See what the Lord has done. Not only we can count our blessings, then we push through. Not only that, moving forward requires that you pray through what frightens you. Moving forward requires you pray through what frightens you. I didn't do this at the first service. I had to, Charlie, come in there. You got your cell phone on? Yeah. Okay. All right. Stand right here. I want you to take my phone and call your phone. Take my phone. Call your phone. Oh. What happens is we lock ourselves out when we don't go to God in prayer. If we're fearful of something or somebody, we need to go to God in prayer. Some of the translations say that Moses cried out or cried unto the Lord. That means he prayed. He took his concern to the one who is concerned about us. He took his dilemma to the one who is determined to make us whole. He took his obstruction to someone who has an open door policy. Moses took his crisis to the one who will someday send a Christ. Moses took his unresolved issue to someone who could ensure a solution. Moses took his problem to the problem solver. Brothers and sisters, I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but some people are just better problem solvers than others. And God is the ultimate problem solver. He solved the problem of salvation a long time ago when he sent his son named Jesus, who came down from 42 generations when he was born, lived, died, and was resurrected for all of us. And since he was resurrected for all of us, we can push forward because we can have eternal life when this life is over. Amen. Right there. Back to the text. Moses was afraid of what the people would do to him. Please observe, if you will, Moses did not curse at the people. He did not tell them to go back to Egypt and go somewhere else either. He did not try to remind them of how bad it was in Egypt, and that they were whiners, and that they were unappreciative, and that they did not know how good they had it, that it was not his fault, that he could not help if there was no water, that he was sick and tired of them acting childish, and that he had it up to here with their nonsense. But people needed to move forward, and Moses needed to move forward. Moving forward requires you to pray through what frightens you. And there's a note in the Life Application Bible that says, again, the people complain about their problem instead of praying. It further stated, some problems can be solved by careful thought or by rearranging our priorities. Some can be solved by discussion and good counsel. But some problems can only be solved by prayer. prayer. Moses was afraid. He was afraid that they were going to do something to him. And throughout history, God's servants have been afraid. Apostle Paul was afraid. People were afraid. But what happens is they learn to pray through what frightened them. Listen to the text in the Good News Translation. Moses prayed earnestly. Well, what does it mean? He prayed hard. This wasn't one of those little quickie prayers. This was a prayer where one pours out one's heart to God. Moses prayed earnestly to the Lord and said, what can I do with these people? They're almost ready to stone me. Moving forward requires you pray through what frightens you. What is frightening you today? What's scaring you today? Have you prayed through it yet? Are you praying about the situation on your job? Are you praying about your health? Are you praying about the situation that you're fearful of because you're not sure how it's going to end? Give it to God. Talk to him about it. Perhaps you have been sharing your fears with the wrong people. Perhaps you've been calling out to the world when we should have been calling out to God. Moses did not just take it lightly. He poured out in prayer to God, even though he was afraid. Moving forward requires you to pray through what frightens you. There is something else. Janice, that's your cousin. Y'all going back to West Philly? I'll give y'all one other thing to take back to Philly with you. And it's evident in this text. Moving requires you to press through what you have. Moving forward requires you to press through what you have. There may be times in our lives when we may want to say things like, if I had more money, my life would be better. If I had better co-workers or better supervisor. Now, Dr. Christian, you're not saying this, hopefully. You're saying, okay. I would like my job. If I had a newer car, I'll be happy. If I could lose about 20 pounds, I know my life would be just awesome. If I could be with somebody else, I would have a happier life. If. There are times in our lives that we must learn to press through with what we have. Sometimes these cannot be changed, substituted, switched out, or traded in at the time you wanted to. Some things we will not change immediately, or some things will not change immediately, or be corrected overnight. Moving forward requires you to press through what you have. Moses pressed through with what he had. Allow me to read verses from the Good News Version. Good News Translation. The Lord said to Moses, take some of the leaders of Israel with you and go ahead of the people. Take along the stick with which you struck the Nile. I will stand before you on a rock at Mount Sinai. Strike the rock, and the water will come out of it for the people to drink. I said, Moses did so in the presence of the leaders of Israel. The place was named Massah and Meribah because the Israelites complained and put the Lord to the test when they asked, is the Lord with us or not? Moving forward requires you to press through with what you have. What did Moses have? I suggest to you, brothers and sisters, he had three things. He had leaders, he had a rod, and he had God. He was able to press through. Now you might be wondering, what's the difference between pushing through and pressing through? Pushing through takes more effort. Pressing through takes some effort, but not to the degree that it takes to push through. Now, I could, because you know I'm strong, I could probably push this podium to that speaker. Okay, since you're right, I said it. It takes an effort to do that. But y'all, if I was to go on my phone, I just have to press that. Pushing takes more effort. But pressing is not as much effort, but you can still get the job done. Moving forward requires you to press through what you have. And it's not wishing I had more, but maybe I just need to press through with what I've already got. Moses had leaders. The leaders were an important part as he pressed. Because Moses was trying to do the job, my brothers and sisters, by himself. And in the next chapter, his father-in-law, Jethro, will have to deal with him in terms of how he should work, more how he should look smart. The responsibility of leading God's people could be shared with the other leaders. They had a stake in it too. And my brothers and sisters, sometimes when we're trying to move forward, we think all the work should be on us. And when all the work is on us, it wears us out. Moses pressed through with what he had. He had leaders. Moses pressed through with what he had. He had a rod. There was the same rod that he tapped when the Nile River turned into blood. It was the same rod that he raised when the Red Sea parted. It was the same rod that he held that God had given him. It is something that he had with him every day. You know, this isn't something that you keep up in the garage until Christmas time and take it down, up in the attic and then take it down. This is something that you have in the back of your wallet hoping to spend on a... No, this is something that you always have close by with you. It may be a gift, it may be a talent, it may be something that God has given you uniquely. He pressed through with the rod that he had because God had Moses to use the rod to strike the rock to supply the water. Moses pressed through with what he had. But also Moses had the great God Jehovah. He was Jehovah Jireh, God out there. God could supply the water that Moses, the people, and the animals needed in order to move forward. Moving forward requires you to press through what you have. Moses pressed through with what he had. Now there's a universal question that I think believers or Christians ask themselves when they're trying to move forward in something. And there are problems or challenges that keep them from moving forward. Now you may be trying to go forward in some relationship. It could be a marriage or some other type of relationship. It could be on a job. It could be an employment issue. It could be related to you going back to school and you're an adult and you're going back to school and you realize the classes were a lot harder than you anticipated. The question could be centered around you trying to get better in any area of your life, and challenges happen as you're trying to move forward in life. And for the Moses and the Israelites, they were out of water. And the people began to complain to Moses. The King James Version of the Bible said they murmured, but they complained. There was a far deeper concern, and there's a question that people from time to time have to grapple with, have to tackle, have to struggle with, have to wrestle with, have to face, and when they find themselves asking this question, and it may be in their conscious or their subconscious. The Israelites asked the question is, and it's found in the 7th verse, and it says, is the Lord with us or not? I'm out here trying to do what's right, and things are not going right with me. Is the Lord with me or not? Lord, do you really see what I'm going through? Have you forgotten all about me? Lord, do you see the problem that I have? Do you see what they're trying to do to me? Lord, I want to move forward, but at the same time, I feel like giving up. Lord, what are you doing? And Lord, what are you going to do? It's at this point, brothers and sisters, that our faith needs to kick into overdrive. It is that point that we need to stop complaining and start trusting God. It is at that point that we stop looking at the situation. We stop looking at not having water. We stop looking at our body. We stop looking at our not having money. We stop looking at the negative. We stop looking at having a credit score of 200. We stop looking at the person not acting right. We stop looking at the situation and start looking to Jesus. We look to Jesus because he's the author and the finisher of our faith. for us to move forward. Look to Jesus. Look to him for salvation. Look to him to move forward. Look to him to get past our complaints. Look to him to move to the next chapter of our lives. And our spiritual growth for the week says this: you can't start the next chapter of your life if you keep rereading the last one. And when we keep rereading the last one, you know what happens? We never finish the book. But we serve a God who's able to help us move forward. We serve a God that's able to give us strength when our strength is lacking. We serve a God that's able to help us to move forward in any area of our lives. Question: what's keeping you from moving forward today? Is it no water? Trust in God, and he's able to help you. For those who follow us via Periscope and Facebook Live, I want you to bow your heads. And those who are on site, I want you to bow your heads. We're going to pray two prayers. The first prayer is for those who do not know Jesus as Savior. Please just whisper the prayer after me. Whisper the prayer. First one for those who are unsaved. Dear God, I want to move forward, but I've been unable to do it. Forgive me of my sins. I repent in the name of Jesus. Help me to move forward, that my life will be different. Help me in Jesus' name. Keep your heads bowed. Second prayer for those who already know. Oh Lord, our Lord. Thank you for the message today. You touched some tender places. But they needed to be touched. Now, if you follow us via social media and you prayed the first prayer, get in contact with a local church whereby you can learn and grow, and you can move forward, and you can use your gifts and talents, that God's kingdom will come, and his will will be done. Now, if you live within an hour's drive of Williamsburg, Virginia,